What's up, my Central Unit? It's the Central Man here, so back again with another classic WCW pay-per-view review. So we're still in 1989. Let's fast forward to October because the last 1989 WCW pay-per-view I reviewed was Chi-Town Rumble. That was in February of that year. So fast forward to October. We're in the Halloween season. I'm gonna do, in this month, I'm probably do some classic WCW Halloween Havoc pay-per-views to review in this month. So I'm gonna review the very first Halloween Havoc pay-per-view that is in 1989. So this will become, NWA slash WCW's flagship event. It'll continue until the rest of the company's existence. The last Halloween Havoc show was in 2000. I'm not going to talk about that show anytime soon. So anyway, this show was at the Philadelphia Civic Center in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, on the 28th of October, 1989. 3 days really before Halloween. Yeah, this show, this attendance for the show, the attendance for the show was 7,300, and the buy rate for the very first Halloween Havoc was about 175,000 pay-per-view buys. The commentators for the show are Jim Ross and Bob Caudle, because Tony Schiavone had a only run in the World Wrestling Federation as a commentator. He came back, I think, in 1990. Anyway, so the first match to kick off the very first Halloween Havoc event, we got the Z-Man, Tom Zink, versus Mike Rotonda. This was a basic standing match. It was kind of boring, but it was okay. It was an okay match. In the end, the Z-Man got the victory. I think he hit Mike Rotonda with a crossbody to score the victory. Anyway, the next match, we got a six-man tag team match. We got the Midnight Express, that is Stan Lane and Bobby Eaton, with Dr. Depp Steve Williams. In their corner, got like Jim Cornette. They'll face the Samoan SWAT team. That is Fatu. Fatu's the future Rikishi. I'm not gonna go and what's his name? I think he's called Famu. And the Samoan Savage. The last match talk about the Samoan SWAT team. That was at the Capital Combat event. This is way back in, like, I'm guessing like July. I did my review of WCW Capital Combat 1990. Anyway, the Samoan SWAT team, they are the future head shrinkers in the World Wrestling Federation. Anyway, so really funny, they're brothers in real life. Fatu and the other and his partner. 1 second. Sorry, it was Samu, not Famu. Yeah. Anyway, so I think they're brothers in real life. The future Rikishi and Samu. Anyway, back to this match. Yeah. This was a really fun six-person tag team match. In the end, you had Jim Cornette on the ring apron. You got Savage. He's not related to Randy Savage. Samoan Savage kind of pushed Stan Lane, and Stan Lane accidentally bumped Jim Cornette out of off the ring apron, and the Samoans got the victory. I don't think they didn't do much in WCW. The Samoan SWAT team, they did well in the WWF. I think they were tag team champions. at one point. Anyway, so let's move on to the next match. The next match, oh boy, we got Tommy Rich versus the Cuban Assassin. Tommy Rich, a little bit, not much about the Cuban Assassin. I've done my research. He kind of wrestled in Puerto Rico. It's the World Wrestling Council. It's basically the Cologne territory. He kind of had runs in like in the what was it Mid Atlantic, Mid South. I think he had a run in the 90s. Yeah, he was a jobber in the World Wrestling Federation between 1994 until 1997. So yeah. Anyway, this match sucked in my opinion. It was boring as fuck. I think they were turning against Tommy Rich. I don't know why they turned on Tommy Rich. I don't want to get into it. In the end, I think Assassin was going for like a move off the top rope. I'm guessing like it was a kind of like a crappy looking crossbody. Rich did to score the victory. Yeah, it was a like nothing to talk about this match. It's basically blinking you miss it. It was all boring. It was basically grappling holds. I don't know about Cuban Assassin sucked in my opinion. Tommy Rich, don't know. This like before my time. Anyway, moving on to the next match. The next match, this is for the NWA World Tag Team Championships. We got the fabulous Freebirds. That is Michael Hayes and Jimmy Garvin defending the belts against the Dynamic Dudes with Jim Cornette as their manager. The Dynamic Dudes are Shane Douglas and Johnny Ace, future John Laurinaitis, people power. I'm guessing, I've done my research. I think the Freebirds enter this match in Philadelphia on the show as heels, and the dudes are the baby faces. The Dynamic Dudes are the baby faces. Unfortunately, that's not the case. The fans in Philadelphia, they were booing, really turning on the Dynamic Dudes and cheering the Freebirds. I think like the Freebirds are the most established tag teams. I think they were a trio at this point. At one time. I think they were a trio. That is Michael Hayes, Terry Gordy, and Jimmy Garvin. I think it was four. I think it was the last review I did was Chi-Town Rumble. I was completely can't remember the members of the Freebirds. I think there were four. I'm not 100% sure. I don't want to get into it. So, yeah, I think they were more. Yeah, they were an established tag team. I think there were one time. I think there were six. They were the 6-man tag team champions. I think it was in this. I think it was at like World Class Championship Wrestling, not in the NWA, but I think they did a 6-man tag team championships. Anyway, and the fans were I think the dudes, the Dynamic Dudes are shit. Like Shane Douglas is a good worker. Johnny Ace, I think he wrestled in Japan, but the dudes were fucking. It was a stupid gimmick. I understand it's the 80s. The 80s is nearly at the end. It's going soon to be the 90s. They were like this. Basically, they were like skateboarder type of gimmick. Like they're wearing like hats and jackets and riding on skateboards. I think they never like truly got over. For Shane Douglas, I never knew he wrestled in the 80s. He wrestled. I've done my research. He started his career at the age of 18 in 1982. He's been wrestling for nearly a decade, but I never knew he wrestled in the late 80s WCW. I thought he's wrestled like in the late 90s and early 2000s WCW before the company went out of business. He had to run in. He kind of shit the bed in WWF. He was the IC champion, but he had a forgettable run in the World Wrestling Federation. He had a great run in ECW. I think he was the first ECW World Champion. I think that's before they renamed Eastern before they renamed it as Extreme Championship Wrestling. Anyway, so back to this match. It was a good match. It's what it is. The fans really got behind the Freebirds, booing. the Dynamic Dudes. In the end, the dudes, Ace and Douglas were about to do like I think they call their tag team finisher, the Wipeout on Jimmy Garvin. Garvin basically counted into a crossbody to win this match and retain the tag team titles. Okay, moving on to another good tag team match. We got the Steiners. That is Rick and Scott Steiner versus Doom. I don't know. This is Scott Steiner's first match. I think it was months ago he had the first match, but this is the first years the Steiners were tag teams, because before that, Jim Ross sitting on commentated that before Scott Steiner was a wrestler, he was about to almost become a school teacher before Rick talked him into the wrestling business. So anyway, so yeah, the two members of Doom are, that is Ron Simmons and Butch Reed. In the you got woman, Nancy Benoit as their manager. I never knew she was in the business in the 80s. I know like Chris was in the business. Talking about Benoit, Chris kind of started out in was it called Canadian Stampede Wrestling. You went on to WCW in the mid 90s. I never knew Woman was in WCW in the 90s. I think he was I never knew he was in the business in the 80s. In WCW, Woman. I thought she appeared in WCW in the 90s. I'm not 100% sure. I didn't realize. But anyway, back to this match. Like I say, it was a good match. It was a good, decent match. I think they got good chemistry between Steiners and Doom. The last two matches of Butch Reed's matches against Sting and Steve Casey, they were not that good, because I did my research of Butch Reed. He had a lot of experience in the wrestling business. He wrestled since 1978. He's had a run in the territories. As for Ron Simmons, before he was a pro wrestler, he was I think he was the American football player. Good chemistry. In the end, you had basically Woman grabbed I think it was some kind of object. He kind of placed in one of the members' Doom's mask. In the end, I think it was Doom 1 or Doom 2. They end up using their real names. In later years, but actually in 1990. I explain a little shortly, but anyway, one members of Doom kind of headbutt Rick Steiner in the head to win this match. Anyway, they end up ditching the mask, and also Woman was not around, and also they swapped managers. I don't know what Woman. I think Woman left the company. He came back in the 90s. Part of the Horsemen. Managing Ric Flair. I think it was 96. I think. And also they end up the Doom had Teddy Long as their manager, and then I think they won the tag team titles. I think they dropped the titles to the Steiners at Capital Combat. I did review it. Sometimes I don't remember. It's been months. And end up the Doom never lasts long, because Doom only lasted until 1991. And before you had Butch Reed turn on Ron Simmons, and Ron Simmons will become the first Black World Champion. And also done my research. This is their first pay-per-view match as a tag team, Doom. It was a good call. Okay, and then we got the United States Championship match. I almost say United States Tag Team Championship match. No, the United States match for the United States Championship. We got Lex Luger defending the belt against Brian Pillman. The last pay-per-view review I did on this WCW section of my channel was Chi-Town Rumble. Luger won the belt from Barry Windham. That was in February. He dropped the title to he dropped the title to, I think it was Michael Hayes at Wrestle War. That's in May. So it's about he held the title for about 2 to 3 months, and then he regained the title back on a house show 3 weeks later in late May. So he held the title about 4 or 5 months now. Anyway, so I'll get to Lex Luger. Talk about Lex Luger a little bit shortly. Brian Pillman. I never knew he wrestling in late 80s WCW. I thought he debuted in the 90s, like probably like 1991 or 92, because he, Pillman's career in WCW. He had he's flying Brian Pillman, and then he was part of the Dangerous Alliance with Paul Heyman, and also he was in a tag team with Steve Austin. Hollywood Blondes. I never knew. I think he was starting out in the business because I think like in the 80s he injured his leg. He was. I think he was part. I think he was. He did had a career in the NFL. I might be wrong about this. Don't quote me. He was a former American football player. I think he was part of the Cincinnati Bengals before he got retired due to injury before pursuing a career in pro wrestling. Anyway, so yeah, this was a really good match between Luger and Pillman, because Luger is basically he's there for his size, you know, and Pillman's like he's got the agility and the athleticism. They kind of clicked that well. In the end, I think in the end, you had Luger hit like later on Steve Austin's first finisher, the stun gun, to win this match and retain the United States title. I'm guessing Luger was the heel at this point because he was kind of like shouting to the fans, like, "Shut up, you idiots." So anyway, it was a really, really good match. It kind of put Pillman on the map, I think. I don't think Pillman never. I don't think he won the United States title. I think he was TV. I think he was the TV champion, and I think he was the first light heavyweight champion. This was at the time. This is pre cruiserweight division era. This was like in early 90s WCW. So in my opinion, this is match of the night for me. Anyway, so yeah, as for Luger, he will be. It's very funny that I think in '88 he was in the world title picture, and then in '89 and 1990 he was in the United States title picture. I think he's the guy. He's hold the most reigns as United States champion in WCW 5 times. Like in between 89 and 99, he ended up winning it 2 or 3 times. I think he hold the title until the next year's Halloween Havoc event. That will be in 1990 to Stan Hansen in Chicago. Anyway, moving on to the next match. The next match, oh boy, we've got the Road Warriors. That is the late great Road Warriors. Hawk and Animal, with Paul Ellering as their manager. They take on the Skyscrapers with Teddy Long, future holla player, future SmackDown GM. That's short for General Manager. The Skyscrapers are Dave Spivey and Sid Vicious. Oh boy. For me, this was not a good match. I was bored. Sid fucking sucks. The last 2 Sid matches I reviewed was at the first 2 In Your House shows. In Your House 1 and In Your House 2. Sid is okay. He's okay facing like smaller wrestlers like your Shawn Michaels and the Bret Harts against big wrestlers. He cannot. He's there for his size. He's not that good, to be honest. It's just like he's there for his size. He had like bad matches. The most like Undertaker. He had the bad match with the Undertaker. 2 bad matches with Kevin Nash. Diesel. Sid, he produced a lot of bad. One problem about Sid is he produced a lot of bad matches than good ones. He cannot wrestle for shit. He's not that good on the mic. I don't know why WCW and WWE pushed this dude. I don't want to get into it, but anyway, it was not a good match. It was a boring match in my opinion. In the end, the match ended in disqualification. I think like one member of the Skyscrapers used like a key. It hit one member of the Road Warrior in the gut, and then it ended up like beating down the Road Warriors. I think they escaped after I think it was Sid and Spivey kind of attack Animal, and then Hawk came to the rescue. Anyway, so this is the first version of Skyscrapers. I'm guessing like Sid left the group. He ended up joining the Horsemen in 1990, and the second version will be Dave Spivey and Mark Caloris. Mark Caloris is Mark Calloway, aka the future Undertaker. Anyway, so moving on to the main event. The main event, we got this is a Thunderdome match. The Thunderdome, I'll explain a bit shortly. We got Sting and Ric Flair. Ric Flair is the world champion at the time. They will face the TV champion, the Great Muta, and Terry Funk. So I've done my research. I think like this is the feud between Terry Funk and Ric Flair because they've been feuded since May. This is after the feud between one of the best rivalries in Ric Flair at the time. '89 was really a good year for WCW at the time. This is Ric Flair's best year because he had good feuds. I think with Terry Funk and also with Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. After their rivalry came to an end, Flair was feuding with Terry Funk. I think he had like a death match and a I Quit match. I think it was at probably on a pay-per-view and also at one of the clashes. You know, I'm still on Clash of the Champions 6. I will review Clash of the Champions 6 this Wednesday, so stay tuned to find out. And also, I think Sting, Muta's bouncing around between wrestlers. He's feuding with Luger, feuding with Flair, and also he's feuding with Sting. Anyway, so the Thunderdome is this is the same structure as the Hell in a Cell matches you see right now, without the roof. Anyway, so it had a lot of jungle things on the cage. There's a rope, there was branches. I feel like one moment of the match, or really before the match, you had one of the cage was on fire. It wasn't a massive fire, it was a little bit on fire. Yeah. Anyway, this match was okay. It was an okay main event. It wasn't great. I don't get people hyping it. I see a lot of reviews on this show. The main event was great. Wasn't that great, to be honest. I think it was I say it was a good main event, but not a great one. It could be a lot better, in my opinion. You know, they did do okay. For what it is, you know, for Flair, Sting, Muta, Funk. Funk debuted in 1989. You know, he had to run because he's an established legend, Terry Funk. He had to run with his dad's promotion in Texas and Florida, and then WCW, and then WWF. He didn't do much in the WWF in 2 runs. You know, he had to run in the I think it was in the mid '80s, and then he came back in the late '90s as Chainsaw Charlie, and then and also in the rest of the '90s in ECW. Anyway, so Muta, I think Muta was a legend in Japan, or soon to be a legend in Japan. You know, he bounced around between WCW in the '80s and the '90s. You know, and he also be part of the member of the NWO. I think it was the Japanese version of the NWO. Anyway, so yeah, it was okay for what it is. In the end, you had basically Flair locked Terry Funk in a figure 4 leg lock, and then you got 2 managers at the time. You know, you had on Flair and Sting's corner, you got Ole Anderson, and then on Muta and Funk's side, you got Gary Hart. So basically, they grabbed 2 towels. Gary Hart was about to throw here. I think there was going to be I think there was some confusion. I think that both of them about to throw their white towels. I think it was going for a double count out or something, a double a draw or something. I don't know. That would be a stupid finish. But the finish was completely dumb. It was okay, but wasn't great. Basically you had Ole Anderson basically kicked the white towel off the hands of Gary Hart. And by the way, the special guest referee for this match was Bruno Sammartino. I never knew. I think he only appeared for a cup of coffee because he was the hometown boy because I think he wrestled in Philadelphia before going to the WWF and become the longest reigning WWE champion of all time because he held it for 8 times. He held it for 8 years. Sorry, not 8 times. He only won it twice. Anyway, so basically he didn't interfere in this match. He basically had to hit Muta. This was in the lateral stages of the match. Basically, the match, it was ended with the white, someone's throwing the white towel, and yet Sting and Flair won this match. Here's a problem: Funk did not tap out. He was fighting. He was holding on, And I feel like while Flair locking the figure four leg lock onto Funk, Sting was doing splashes off the top rope. Yeah, and also there was one rope. Sting was one more of the match that were climbing on top of the cage, and also Sting was riding on the rope. I don't know. I don't know why they did that. It's a bit tarnished, this match, in my opinion. So anyway, the babyfaces got the victory. The ending was a bit confusing. If they did the double, the two managers throwing the white towels, that'd be a shitty finish. But it's there for what it is. So anyway, I think they continue their rivalry in late '89, and continue in the following year in 1990. So anyway, so my final rating for Halloween Havoc of 1989, the very first Halloween Havoc in NWA/WCW, I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10. I think this was a good show. In the goods, you got you got really good tag team matches on the show. You got the 6-person tag team match. The Midnight Express and Dr. Death taking on the Samoan SWAT team. The NWA tag team title match between the Freebirds and the Diamantic Dudes and Steiners and Doom. That was also a decent, good match. And also, for me, match of the night for me is Luger and Pillman for the United States Championship. And also, the main event was good. It was passable. Sting and Flair versus Muta and Funk. The Thunderdome, planting the seeds of the Hell in a Cell matches in the start of the era of the Hell in a Cell matches in the 90s and the present day. Late 90s and the present days. Anyway, that's in the good. The one match in the middle, I have to go with Z-Man versus Mike Rotundo. It's just what it is. It's just a standard basic match, nothing special. And the two matches I put it in the bad has to be, Tommy Rich and the Cuban Assassin and Road Warriors versus the Skyscrapers. They were just bad matches, very boring matches, in my opinion. So anyway, so that's my review of WCW Halloween Havoc 1989. Hope you like it. Leave your thoughts on the comment section below, smash the like button, and subscribe to the Central Man Network on YouTube. We're keeping this Halloween Havoc train going. Let's go into the 90s. Let's go to right in the middle of the 90s. Let's talk about Halloween Havoc 1995. Oh boy, the fucking the monster truck mayhem match and the debut of the Yeti. Oh boy. Stay tuned for next week's edition. This is the Central Man officially signing out. Check you later.